All right, the hour being after 6:45, I'd like to call the December 8th, 2020 school committee meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And then the next thing we'd like to do is we'd like to request a moment of silence. Fran Foley passed away on Wednesday, November 23rd. Fran was a 1956 graduate of Walpole High School. Fran began teaching math at Walpole High School in 1961. In the 70s, Fran was at the forefront of the computer movement and was instrumental in obtaining computers at the high school. In addition to his teaching career, Fran was named system administrator for the computer department within both the town of Walpole and Walpole High School. He retired in 1999 after more than 35 years of dedicated service to his students. Moment of silence. Thank you. And our first order of business is the Walpole High School student report. And unfortunately, Joy Martinez Merelda had a last minute conflict. So I have her report and we'll still give you the report, but you'll get it from me. So winter sports have begun, such as boys and girls basketball, boys and girls hockey, and boys varsity wrestling. Good luck to the winter teams. On December 2nd and 3rd, Walpole High School Drama Club hosted the production of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. The number of Walpole High School clubs have also seen an increase. For example, a new Dungeons and Dragons club is scheduled to begin on January 4th. The Walpole High School Humane Society submitted over 300 pictures of pets being submitted for their fundraising calendar. The Spanish, Latin, and French clubs have scheduled their upcoming field trips to Boston. The speech and debate team is raffling an $800 basket of gift cards. The proceeds will be used to help offset this season's competition. On Tuesday, December 6th, the High School Student Council held an event in support of the For You I Will Fight organization to raise awareness for ALS. With the recent loss of Tara O'Brien, our thoughts are with her family. Many students are in the process of applying to college and receiving acceptances. Those who have made their college selections may submit pictures to the WHS Futures page. Work on the 2023 yearbook is continuing. Pictures from elementary school years have been recently submitted by students. With the holidays around the corner, students are working diligently to finish assignments and prepare for winter break, and progress reports will be issued on December 19th. I would ask for comments. I guess I can't answer any questions.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So the first order of new business is the out-of-state field trip request. Dr. Goff.
Sure. Walpole High School Spanish teacher Kate Bacon is present to request a destination change to a formerly approved international field trip. Last year, if you remember, I believe it was December 9th, 2021 school committee meeting. Walpole High School trip to Peru was requested and approved, but however, due to recent travel advisories, an alternate destination to Spain during the same time period is being requested. So Kate is here to answer any questions that you have, and I do recommend a vote to approve this alternate trip to Spain. And it'll be on February 17th through February 25th, right, 2023. And you do have the travel advisory link in your packets. Thanks. Kate.
Good evening, and thank you for honoring our request to speak. Here to request, as Ms. Goff said, permission to take Walpole High School students on a 9-day tour through Spain in February of 2023. Last year you authorized a trip for us to travel to Peru in February, but unfortunately, due to the level 3 travel advisory issued by the U.S. State Department, EF is discouraging travel to Peru due to a rise in crime and political instability. Due to this, I and my colleague Rich Sturgis have selected and scheduled a substitute trip to Spain. We've informed all the families that were scheduled for Peru of this cancellation and of the substitute of this trip to Spain, which would be Madrid and southern Spain. The trip is still run by local travel company EF Education First. It travels to the capital city of Madrid and then on to Toledo, Granada, Sevilla, and Marbella. We have an established relationship with them, as you know. Our language department has run trips to Spain before. Over the last several years, the science department also has taken students to Ecuador, Peru, Dominican Republic, Tanzania, and I believe they're going to Thailand as well. So we have a trusted relationship with them. At present, of the 10 original students that we had, 8 are coming, 2 have dropped out. However, 2 other students have made a last-minute decision to join us, so it looks like we are going with the same number of students. With your approval, we'll continue to the process of the informational meetings and pre-trip preparations, both with the students and parents. Plan is for myself and Mr. Sturgis to accompany students during this trip in February. Students will have, an opportunity to explore aspects of Spanish society and culture. EF ensures that its tour contains a healthy balance of cultural education, sightseeing, and interaction with locals, and activities that promote global awareness. Along with assuring students' well-being, Mr. Sturgis and I will serve as models, and we will encourage the students to utilize Spanish, if they're able to, and develop their linguistic and cultural knowledge. And I'll add that, EF, over this last week, they've been excellent kind of pivoting and making this happen within 1 week's time. So I've been very impressed by the company. Thank you for your attention to this request.
Any questions? Nancy?
Can you just explain the 2 students that are not going? Are they able to financially end up fairly well in, like could the 2 new ones replace the 2 who are going?
Yeah, so one of them was a senior, and he had bought an extra travel insurance, which parents had an option to do. EF, because of the unique situation, again, this was where we were with the pandemic 3 years ago, but, with the travel situation, they created like a, if kids didn't want to continue on, the cost of canceling, I mean, they still did take a small hit because we are so close to traveling, and they said you can go, but it's level 3. We would have to get parent permission, and we just were not comfortable taking children that weren't ours into this kind of situation. So and the other student opted for a voucher for the full amount, which she'll hand down to a brother unless there's a trip next year, like a younger sibling.
Perfect.
Nice.
Okay, good, thanks.
Yep.
Other questions?
Motion to approve the request to go to Spain?
Second.
A motion by Mark, second by Bill. All those in favor? 4-0-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kate, for
Thanks so much
pivoting
for doing
to.
it, yeah.
All right, the next order of business is a math update. Dr. Hahn, you want to let us know who's here today?
You're in for a real treat. We have 5 absolutely fantastic math leaders here from Walpole Public Schools. We're going to start with our elementary level, so I'll invite Sheila Rinaldi and Jen Terigian to join us, who will share an update on our elementary math curriculum. It's been an exciting year and a lot to update us on, or update you on, and so I'll turn it over to them. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for having us tonight. My name is Sheila Rinaldi, and I've been working in the Walpole School District since 2006. This is my first year in the math coach specialist position.
And my name is Jennifer Terigian, and I've been working in the Walpole Public Schools since 2004, and this is my second year in the same position at Elm Street School and Fisher School.
Right. I'm at Boyden and OPR.
So you may be asking yourselves, why Bridges? Why was that the curriculum selected to implement this year? As you know, last year we conducted a math audit and concluded that Bridges curriculum best matched the needs that our teachers expressed on this table throughout that audit that are most vital for student growth and success, including support and differentiation for all students, the daily use of hands-on tools and manipulatives, and activities that foster excitement and enthusiasm for mathematics. The Math Learning Center shares our vision in Walpole of math education. Learning happens through a collaborative process of constructing meaning with a strong growth mindset that's essential. Every day, using Bridges as our primary tool Teachers are using great questioning strategies and promoting student discourse through engaging activities, and students are constantly solving rich problems using visual models and manipulatives. Students are discovering efficient strategies and explaining their thinking, realizing there's more than one way to solve a problem, and sometimes, to their amazement, discovering that sometimes there's more than one solution to a problem. The three components of Bridges are like a three-legged stool, with each leg being an integral part of a well-balanced math curriculum. The first of which is Number Corner, Problems and Investigations, and finally, Workplaces.
So Number Corner is a 20-minute daily routine that focuses around the classroom calendar. Students are active participants, and each grade level has about 5 workouts that they work through over the month. They either introduce, reinforce, or extend skills and concepts from the critical standards from each grade level. All 6 grades have the calendar grid, which focuses around patterns and observations, and students make equations out of what they see. Calendar collector is an activity where the class is collecting. They might be collecting data, they may be collecting measurements, objects for counting. It all depends on what grade level they are, but they all connect to different standards that cycle throughout the Number Corner activities. Computational fluency, that also is in all 6 grades, focuses around the strategies for all 4 operations, so that students are not just learning straight algorithms, but ways to expand their number sense and thinking around solving problems. Numberline is from kindergarten to 3rd grade and extends right into problem strings. It begins with counting by ones, counting forward and backward, counting by 5s and 10s, and leads right into problem strings where students are using the number line to see how different problems are connected and how they can grow their thinking. Kindergarten and grade 1 still focus on days in school, but what's interesting is they add in the celebrating decade days and century days, and the kids really enjoy all the different activities that go there. The daily rectangle in grade 2 is the foundation for multiplication, where students see the repeated addition and really build that foundation, so as they enter into 3rd grade, when that becomes a standard, they're ready and excited to learn. Solving problems in grades 3, 4, and 5 focus around the multi-step problem activity, where students have graphic organizers to help them sort out the problems, and they focus on the different operations that are essential to that grade.
And here are some pictures of our students participating in Number Corner. Now that our routines and procedures are in place, students are leading the updates themselves, building their confidence and communication skills. Here you can see 5th graders. What they did was they actually left carrots out on a plate over the course of a month and collected data, measuring the weights over time and creating double line graphs. And here you'll see grade 3 learning all about and exploring liquid measurement.
Problems and investigations are the main focus of a lesson. A problem is given in context by the teacher for the class to work together to solve. Students begin by thinking independently and then do a pair share. The teacher monitors and guides the discussion so that the important mathematical concepts are highlighted, but the students are really the highlight. The teacher is doing a lot less talking than in programs that we've used before. The students are focused. They're doing their explaining, sharing their thinking. And one of the strengths of Bridges is that concrete representational and abstract thinking cycle that's so important to mathematical understandings. The vertical alignment of the manipulatives and visual models in Bridges bring that student learning back and forth through the cycle to solidify their mathematical understandings. The program encourages seeing, touching, and sketching ideas to build the schema that allows students to make the connections that deepen their understanding and concepts, enabling them to move from basic visual models like the 10 frame and the number line to increasing more complex models around arrays, number lines, and even coordinate grids.
Once again, here are some students throughout problems and investigations, problem solving, examining the standards of measurement through discourse and the use of a variety of tools. You'll see 5th graders using Omnifix cubes to explore volume, and in 1st grade, students measured each other using popsicle sticks. And workplaces. Workplaces provide engaging math exploration through partner games that can be played digitally on our TouchView screens and many other devices like their Chromebooks, or by using concrete materials like game boards, cards, spinners, and dice. And this works out beautifully with using the math workshop model, because during workplaces, teachers can pull small groups of students too and work with them to meet their individual needs.
Walpole continues to use ST Math to supplement our Bridges curriculum. Teachers are able to use the objectives in ST Math to either preview concepts that are coming up in Bridges or review concepts that have already been covered. Students love using the problem-solving process to figure out how to get Gigi successfully across the screen to get to the next mountain. Because there is no language barrier in ST Math, it's accessible to all students and a great tool regardless of a child's reading ability. We often hear students talking about their latest accomplishment of how many puzzles they've solved. And if you've been following Twitter, you may have noticed that Gigi has been visiting our elementary schools, and we've got another visit scheduled at Boyden for Wednesday.
And over the summer, an elementary family math site was created. When you click the Parents and Caregivers button, you're brought to the parent main page full of Bridges general and grade level specific information and resources. Each of the parent subpages in the sidebar has further information about each of these math topics to explore. When you click on the student button on the right side of the screen, you'll see the student homepage. Students have a button on the website that connects them to the Math at Home site created by the Math Learning Center with enriching activities that support all of our in-class work, sorted by both grade level and unit. In addition, students can also access the same visual models and tools they use in school when they're at home virtually from the site.
The district was able to subscribe to Forefront this year, which has been a great addition to our data collecting tools. It is specifically aligned with Bridges so we can see growth for an individual student, a class, a school, or even the district, and compare Walpole to other districts that use both Bridges and Forefront. Data put in is collected in a student proficiency wheel that allows teachers to see the standards in which our students are showing success and where there are areas for growth. It truly is a game changer for how we are able to use data to inform instruction more efficiently. This year, our focus on using Forefront has been on math, but data from other programs that we use, including foundations and the writing units of study, can also be collected in this way if it's something the district continues to subscribe to in the future. All of these programs and tools together provide our elementary students with a rich math curriculum that prepares them for their next stage of their math journey. Any questions or comments?
Thank you so much. This was great. I think it's really interesting how much some of the math things you showed, like with the carrot and liquid, it really does sort of connect to STEM in that way. You know, a lot of good science and math.
And it really connects math to real life in so many different ways for the kids, and it brings it all to life for them.
That's excellent. Questions, comments? Nancy?
So just in general, it sounds like Bridges is what you hoped it would be and more, because you know, when you try something out, you never know.
Right.
But is that basically how you would feel?
Definitely. It's been a little bit of a heavy lift
Sure.
with a new program and, you know, lots to get adjusted to. But what's great is what we're hearing now. We've actually just experienced some professional development this week. The teachers are seeing all the connections. The kids are seeing the connections. One teacher said to me the other day that she didn't have time for number corner at the time that they usually did it. She had like switched it to another time during the day, and the kids were like, "We're not doing number corner now." They were super excited. So their math excitement, their what's the word I'm looking for? Enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm.
Their feelings about math are really strong.
Yeah. And I think for the teachers too, we're reaching that point of the year that it's not feeling as overwhelming as it was the first couple of months, because there is so much prep work that once it is prepped this year, they'll have it in future years. And the reason that they're not feeling, I believe, as overwhelmed as they were is because they're starting to see the dividends. They're starting to see that math discourse, and kindergartners using vocabularies they haven't used in the past, the collaboration skills that are developing from all of these partner activities, and how they're succeeding in math and really deeply understanding concepts. So they're seeing that payoff already. And as the kids have learned all these new routines and procedures, they're really flowing now, like a well-oiled machine, you know, which is a wonderful thing. We're excited.
It was definitely a shift, because the way we used to teach the clusters, it was you would teach a set of standards, and then we would assess, and then you would move on to a next set of standards, where there's much more distributive learning over the year, and it cycles through, and so mastery isn't expected right away, and students have several opportunities throughout the year to master standards, and we can watch their growth as they go through, because everything is connected. The problems and investigations connect to the number corner, and really, I feel privileged to be in the seat to see K to 5, to really see the vertical alignment of this program, because I think in the next few years, we're really gonna see great dividends for what's happening at the younger grades now and when it reaches the upper grades.
And actually, that came out of our PD this week, and thank you for supporting us and having all of that PD this year. But for teachers who are usually isolated to their own classrooms and their own grade levels, we broke the PD into K to 2 and 3 to 5 coming together, so that within those bands, teachers themselves could see that vertical alignment and where things are going and where the kids will have been in the future, which was incredibly powerful for our teachers.
That's awesome. There are two more things that I just, comments basically. When Dr. Hahn talked to us about this at the beginning of the year, you know, we talked about how excited we were, you know, it sounded like a good program, but that he made it clear that this is the first year, and, you know, don't set crazy expectations, or just sort of, we wanted you to hear that here, that, you know, we're glad it's good, we're glad it's taking root, but, you know, we understand that it takes time. And it, you know, so we just wanted you to hear that. The other thing is, just by you, the enthusiasm that the two of you are bringing, it's nice to see, because this time of year, some teachers don't have any enthusiasm left in them, so, so it's good. And I think the fact that you are well-respected teachers in the district helps a lot in terms of people believing, like, maybe this is gonna really work out, so thanks for that.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And we see it too as really a 3-year rollout in our minds, and we've expressed that to teachers as well, that this is a growing, ever-changing, evolving process, and we're all living and learning it one day at a time together alongside our students.
That's great.
Excellent. Okay. Dr. Goff?
Yeah, thank you. Just to reiterate what Nancy mentioned, yeah, that the implementation, you know, we keep calling it soft rollout, and I'm just amazed at the implementation process and you know, what's being done in the schools, and that's the hard work, the elementary teachers, and the hard work to you too. So it's a true testament to your work and dedication. I love the workshop model that's still around, because like you said, the differentiation, and then being able to help students, and I just think it's a great model. So thank you for that. And commenting on the family site. So families, not only students, but families can go on and see what's happening and learn a little bit more about the program. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I just lost my train of thought. There was something else I wanted to mention. It's really because of our teachers and the effort that they've put in to bringing all of these materials to life for their kids, and the students being so engaged in these activities that are making this soft rollout go so incredibly well. So.
Might have to get over there Wednesday and see Gigi over at Boyden, Dr. Hunt, right?
Yeah,
Christina.
I'm sorry that I was a little bit tardy for your presentation, but I just wanted to share, because I do have elementary students, that having visited their classrooms, I can see how visible math is in the room. It's not just there's a number line on the wall, right? There's a number corner, and all of the manipulatives and all the materials are out all the time. So it's reinforced that way. And one of my kids came home today to tell me about what he scored on his math assessment compared to the pre-assessment, and he was proud of himself because he could see that growth.
And that's exactly what we want.
Yeah, and that's, I think, not something that at the elementary level we have done a lot historically, right? Like giving kids pre and post and asking them to think about their own progress and to make that visible for them. So.
Yes, and to set goals
Right.
based on that pre-assessment.
Yeah, so I see materials coming home and I see enthusiasm, and so I just kind of wanted to share that anecdotal evidence that I think that it is generating a lot of enthusiasm and success.
Well, we're grateful for that.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All good. So thank you so much. I also just want to note that besides the work of implementing bridges, which is a tremendous amount of work that Jen and Sheila do so well, they coach our staff. They work closely with consultants. They manage PD. They were deeply responsible for a high-quality instruction grant. We awarded around $100,000 to implement this program. So I'm very grateful and they're worthy of praise for their investment in our students in the math. So we thank you very, very much.
We're very dedicated to this district. Our heart and soul is here. It has been for a long time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we asked Jen and Sheila to focus on Bridges curriculum because it's new, and now we have the opportunity to have Jill Masterson and Julie Chin here, who will be giving an update to our middle school math curriculum with an emphasis and focus on data collection, common assessments, and how our teachers are using that data to improve learning and improve instruction. So I'll turn it over to our math coaches.
Hi, I'm Julie Chin. I'm the math coach at Byrd.
And I'm Jill Masterson, the math coach at Johnson.
Sorry, I'm also in charge of this too. Tonight, we wanted to share with you how we use data to track student progress and make informed decisions regarding curriculum. MCAS, iReady, and Common Assessments all play a different role in helping us to assess students' proficiency with the standards. So here's a model that we use to kind of think about the assessments and what we do with them. At the top of the pyramid, we have MCAS. The information we gain from MCAS is important as it directly correlates to the standards, and we're able to use it to see how students perform compared to their peers in Walpole and across the state. However, it is only given once a year, and we don't get the information until the following year. So it's only one piece of the puzzle. We need other data to help track their progress. So then we have iReady. iReady is beneficial because it's given 3 times a year, so we're able to use it to track student growth. Teachers also are provided data that they can use with groupings in their classroom that Jill will elaborate on later. Then probably what we're using the most currently is our common assessments. We've spent the last few years developing these, and they're given at the end of each unit, and they can tell us a student's level of proficiency with the specific standards without having to wait for MCAS at the end of the year. This allows us to adjust instruction and create opportunities for spiraling and reteaching. At the bottom of the pyramid is most important for the teachers on a daily basis. This is the formative assessments, and this is real-time data for them to better inform their instruction. This year, when we looked at MCAS, one of the areas that we tried to focus on was the achievement gains and losses from 2019 through 2022. For the purpose of the comparison, we separated them into 2 groups. So we had met and exceeded in one category and partially met and not met in the other. So not surprisingly, we had a drop across all 3 grade levels from 2019 to 2021. So we wanted to look to see how much we had grown since if we had made back our losses. In grade 6, we made the greatest progress by recovering almost all of our losses. In grade 8, we regained about half of what we lost. And in grade 7, we are still working to make progress to gain back our losses. We know that this is an area that is going to need our focus this year and in the coming years. We also like to look at an analysis of our strengths and weaknesses to see what changes we can make to our curriculum for the next year and what worked for any changes that we had made. We noted that statistics and probability is a strength in both 6th and 7th grade. Over the last few years, we have reorganized our Math Connections curriculum to cover a lot more statistics and probability. We pulled it out of 6th and 7th grade, and it seems to be helping because that is a strong area for both grades. Rational numbers was also a strength. For those of you who don't know, rational numbers would be like operations with integers, fractions, and decimals. And that's something we've worked on a lot in the last several years, spiraling that throughout the curriculum, and that was a common strength throughout. When we looked at weaknesses, although they don't look like the 3 grades have anything in common, what we did note was every single weakness was the topic that was covered after MCAS. So it was our Unit 8 topic. So that's what we know we need to look how we're going to fix that going forward. So, sorry, it's kind of small, but as we said, MCAS is only one piece of the puzzle. This is a snapshot of a spreadsheet that Jill and I keep based on every student at our school. And it combines their MCAS data with their iReady data, with their quarterly grades and their common assessment grades. That way we can look across for any sort of trends or outliers. We use this to decide if we need to make any interventions or if they're placed appropriately. Let me continue from here.
And as we mentioned, so MCAS is only one piece of that puzzle. With iReady, what we've seen is some very positive growth with our numbers in iReady overall. This graph was actually provided to us by iReady, and it shows that we are outperforming other Massachusetts schools that are using iReady, as well as outperforming national averages in terms of our growth throughout the year. As Julie mentioned before, our students take iReady 3 times during the year. They take it at the beginning in September, they take it again around mid-year at the end of January, and then at the end of the year in June. And one of the benefits that we see with our iReady data is that we're able to see growth of any kind. Where MCAS focuses specifically on that grade level, iReady adjusts in real time as students are taking it, and we get a true measure of where they're at, even if that means that where they're at is below grade level. And as they take this assessment more than once throughout the year, we're able to see the growth that they are making, even if that growth is happening below the grade level that they're at. So we're seeing positive gains with our students through the iReady data that we have that may or may not be fully reflected in our MCAS data, which is why it's another valuable resource for us in terms of data. It also benefits us as coaches and our teachers as well. It does a really nice job breaking down students into what are known as instructional groupings. And this is based entirely on their performance on the diagnostic, and it adjusts each time they take the diagnostic again. This allows teachers an easy opportunity to provide differentiation or interventions without the groupings are done for them. So if there's a specific skill that they're looking at, they can look at that skill through iReady and figure out what the groupings are that make the most sense. We can also use it as coaches to help to support our decisions for the instruction that we're providing our students in our small group settings. And as Julie mentioned, our big piece of data that we are really focusing in on is our common assessments. To give you a little history with our common assessments, we have been developing these over the last several years. We made significant changes to our scope and sequence to start the 2021-2022 school year last year. In response to some of our MCAS data, we had moved our geometry skills earlier, and as a result, this required us as coaches to make a lot of changes to our common assessments. We did a lot of work to rewrite those last year to get teacher feedback. We're still making some edits, but they're more set in place this year, and so we're able to look more closely at the data and get more information from them. This particular graph shows combined data of the 2 schools, both Byrd and Johnson, in response to, in this particular one, Unit 1, Grade 7's on-level assessment. And what it offers us is a very clear picture of areas where we need to continue to spiral going forward, areas of strength where teachers can have conversations about what they did and how they can continue that growth going forward, and again, areas of weakness where they can also have conversations to talk about how they can adjust their instruction going forward or how they can build in additional opportunities. From this particular assessment, of the 4 questions that really stood out most, 3 of them involved the same concept. So it's clear that there's still a greater need for students to experience this concept, to have opportunities to go deeper with it and make connections. So what we can do is work with our teachers to find ways to bring this back in future units so that students are still seeing it, still having an opportunity to grapple with it and get a better understanding. The 4th question we noticed was more about the language of it, the way that it's presented. It's a little bit different than what they may see in terms of breaking down the parts of a circle, but it's very easy to bring this type of question back as a warm-up, to create discussion, to review the vocabulary as the year goes along. So it's something that teachers can easily build in to their instruction. This is just another example I'm not going to go into as deeply. This is a 6th grade example from Unit 2. And again, there was a very clear picture for us of what needs focus. In this particular case, the areas of weakness were more about application-based questions than about the specific skills themselves. There were questions where students were asked to explain their understanding. They were able to show their understanding in that table in number 9, for example, but then having to explain their understanding in words a little more deeply was a little more challenging for some of our students. And in number 13, it's a question where the skill needed is not explicitly stated. Students have to understand what the question is asking and determine what skill they need. This is between greatest common factor and least common multiple, and the most common mistake that we saw was that students made the incorrect choice. So just creating more opportunities of that language of application without the explicit statement of you need to do least common multiple here. So building that in for our students. We bring back this pyramid because, as Julie had mentioned, there's so many pieces to the picture that we want to create in looking at our progress, in our students' growth, and the success that we are having at the middle school level. MCAS is that one-shot opportunity, and again, we don't get that data until the following year. iReady allows us to make some more in-the-moment decisions throughout the year. We can catch students who in January aren't meeting the expectations of growth that we might want, and we can respond mid-year as opposed to the next year when we see the MCAS data. Common assessments, we're able to gauge where our students are missing concepts or need deeper understanding of certain skills, and we can build that back in. We can work with our teachers closely to build that back in going forward. And again, the formative assessments is real-time, what the teachers are doing on a day-to-day basis in terms of understanding their students.
So where do we go from here? So the next steps, we'll continue to use MCAS data to analyze student growth at the teacher level now. We want to encourage teachers to do peer observation based on their strengths and weaknesses, and we're going to encourage them to use coaching cycles based on this data. We will be developing ways to address Unit 8 topics. Unit 8 is the last unit in every grade, prior to MCAS by revising pacing and creating mini lessons that expose students to new topics before May. We continue to combine MCAS data with other data points. As we talked about, the common assessments are our #1 data point right now that we rely on heavily. We have just started using Delta Math a little bit in some of the classrooms, which John will talk about more later. He uses at the high school, but that's a good tool for teachers to use quick data collection. And we will continue to use iReady data for interventions. We will look for grade-specific professional development based on the data and based on input from what the teachers are asking for is what they feel is most beneficial to them. We know that grade 7 is an area that needs improvement, so we're looking to create more time for collaboration for them, built into their schedule, hopefully, to encourage them to start writing common quizzes that reflect the rigor of the common assessments. Now we have all our common assessments in place. We're trying to now encourage them to move forward towards common quizzes and assignments and projects, and then they can use that time to discuss pacing, differentiation, best practices.
Great, thank you. Questions? Nancy?
Thanks. I think you're doing an awful lot of work, and I think it's just really important for us to hear, like, what's working, what your concerns are and things like that. A couple of my favorite words came up when you used spiral. I just think it's so important because kids can learn things in the moment, but the question is, do they remember it? And if they don't, it catches up to them. So you mentioned it in a couple of different ways. Do you assess in a spiraling kind of a way, or is the like the common assessment kind of specific to the unit that they've just learned? Like, I guess I'm just wondering how you spiral.
It's more specific to the unit that they just learned, but we've spent the last couple of years like revising the common assessments, where we'll put in a question that might address the standard that they're working on, but it might also address a previous standard at the same time. So for example, we've already done, say, multiplying fractions, and we're now doing geometry. We'll make sure that there's multiplying fractions in some of the dimensions.
No, I think that that's good, because I think that that's the disconnect sometimes between, like, when a kid takes the MCAS test, it's a cumulative thing, or when they take the SATs, it's cumulative. So if we can build, whether it's homework practice or warm-ups or something that spirals back, that's going to help. Because we all know, especially in middle school, kids mature at different rates. Some kids are not really ready to really buckle down and focus when they're in 6th grade, but they might be better at it.
And some of the things that we've noticed in the past too is they might know the skills, but they know the skill in isolation. It's attacking that unfamiliar problem. And so that's why we're trying to redesign some of our common assessments to reflect language that's probably more related to like what MCAS is using.
Yeah.
Versus just using textbook. Like, we use big ideas, but not using all the questions out of big ideas for every assessment.
My other thought is around time. It's no surprise we do better at 6th grade. Kids have twice as much math in 6th grade. And as we move forward to the new school, and I think we want to think about maybe, especially we're catching the kids up who have had COVID-related gaps, maybe we have to think about how can we give the 7th and 8th graders a little bit more time. And I'm sure you guys have thought of that too, but I'm just saying, like, that's something that we should be open to. If there are, I understand it's a big can of worms if you open up the schedule.
Yeah, it's definitely a conversation we have, as what might we be able to do going forward, especially with that merge coming, for sure.
Thank you, though.
Thank
Great
you.
job.
Other questions? Dr. Goff? Thanks.
Thank you for mentioning the instructional grouping, because when you're looking at real-time data such as iReady, right, you mentioned, because when we started instructional grouping many moons ago, we didn't have this. All we had was MCAS. At beginning of the year, students were just placed in these groups or these labs, and now you've got the data where you can shift them and really look and hone in on that standard that student needs, and then be able to move them out. So I thought that was important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy, I think these two would give a lot more time to math if given the opportunity.
That's what?
Very good at that. Jill and Julie.
I wanted them to hear it from this end too.
Jill and Julie are so you could tell from this presentation, but are so incredibly committed to our students, and they were asked to do a lot in the COVID years. I mean that in terms of their own jobs changed and shifted so much, and they took on every challenge. And so I'm hoping this year feels a little bit more traditional, where they can tackle what they were initially hoping to do. And so I know that I have felt that relief, and I'm excited about the work they'll continue to do as we have some more, hopefully we link together more of these traditional years,
Exactly.
so thank you so much. Finally, Department Chair John Rodolphe is here, and he'll summarize primarily the high school, and similar to the middle school, he'll share data points, but include SATs and AP placements that are unique to the high school. And then I'm excited for him to share a little bit about Delta Math. One of the things, and I don't want to steal too much of John's thunder, but that he's been considering and thinking a lot about from his start last year is in the area of trying to find more ways to assess students in the moment, and how that can impact learning and also teachers' instruction. So I know that's a piece of his presentation this evening as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you this evening. Just brief overview, gonna do a brief introduction, the progress we've had over the past year, cover a whole bunch of data, and really want to focus on, like Dr. Hahn said, where we're looking and how we are using data. It's kind of a theme at the high school this year, and how we are trying to be very proactive with it and use it in real time using the platform Delta Math. Last year we made an attempt at real-time data. It turned out to be very unwieldy. Teachers gave it a real shot, but collecting the data and the formatting of it was very challenging and did not get us what we wanted. And so we found Delta Math, and I'll talk more about that, like I said. I did also just kind of want to say kind of what our core belief is. It's that every student can achieve and experience success if they are invested, and engaging curriculum encourages participation, collaboration, and requires students to develop critical thinking skills to justify their responses. So we're trying to get them to have academic discourse, explain why they are arriving at their answers and how they are arriving at their answers. And if we have engaging curriculum, then they should be achieving at a high level and experience success. And ideally, every student will enjoy math. That's a lofty goal. Over the past year, we've been doing a really deep dive into the standards at each course and grade level. So Algebra 1 Honors, Algebra 1 CP1, Algebra 1 CP2, and all the way up to the AP courses. In looking at pacing, which standards we're prioritizing, and continuing to look at that as we go through the year this year. We started some vertical alignment meetings. The main focus of those is grades 8 and 9. I think the transition from middle school to high school is extremely challenging for students in just a social and emotional way. So we want to make sure that they're appropriately making a good link in the mathematics field as well. And I'm hoping to have more of those meetings this year. And again, increasing use of data to inform our instruction and intervention for all students. So this year, one of the focuses that I tried to build into the high school schedule, based on feedback from the teachers, they felt like they wanted more PLC time, so that was a focus as I kind of made the teaching assignments and schedules to the extent that I was able to control the schedules and get them some more time to meet and create curriculum, analyze data, all that kind of stuff. For SATs, PSATs, I took a look at the data. We are performing above state average and national averages on the PSATs, a little bit above the state and considerably above the national average. The SAT data, honestly, was a little bit difficult to really take an in-depth look at due to the fact that there are so many different testing sessions. The data only provides for that session compared to how people across the country did on that session, and we might have had 15 students take it. And there's really no way to tell if those were some of the stronger performing students that we may have, some of the students that might have struggled a little bit. Overall, we're right around the state average. I can say that. Kind of some test sessions were a little bit below, some were a little bit above. And there's just kind of an overlook at the PSAT information. Again, I wish I could tell you exactly where we were strong and weak. They give you 3 categories: heart of algebra, problem solving and data analysis, and passport to advanced math. They don't really go into great detail exactly what all of those are. I was kind of surprised. Geometry is not one of the, core groups. So again, kind of right with the state, a little bit above it. Our algebra was very strong, which was nice to see. Briefly on the AP, even though I put way too many slides in about it, our enrollment in AP courses did decrease slightly this year from last year, but it is definitely above the prior years. Overall performance improved, and a total of 78 students received passing scores on AP mathematics exams last year. This is just a whole collection of the data that I'll show on the next few graphs. Enrollment, our stats enrollment continues to be extremely high. We did drop back down to kind of where we are normally on BC Calc last year. I would love to get it back up to last year down the road. We just had an extremely large group last year. and they did do well, as we'll see in the next couple of slides. Average score, we had a little dip. I think I mentioned last year we had a little dip in 2021 and recovered a bunch of that loss this past year. Statistics and BC Calc jumped up, and AP Calc held pretty steady. Course performance, percent scoring 3 or better, up well over 50% for the AB Calculus, close to 90% for the BC Calculus, and over 90% for the statistics. The BC Calculus, again, those students are receiving 2 college credits, Calculus 1 and Calculus 2 at most schools that will accept any score 3 or above. So they are getting, it's a very challenging course, and they did exceptionally well. And this is the number of students scoring 3 or better. So again, we see a huge spike from our results in 2021. 78 was the highest number that I could find over the past at least 6-7 years of students scoring passing scores, and they will be able to get college credit when they head off to our institutions of higher learning. To jump to MCAS next, we are outperforming the state. We're widening that gap by a bit from last year. One key indicator, we have a significant decrease in the students not passing, especially our students with disabilities, and that was great to see. We do have some areas for improvement, including geometry and critical thinking, and I'm going to show you a sample question. This is our DART analysis. I think Dr. Hahn did briefly show this in his presentation. But again, the DART is schools that the state determines are similar to us in a number of indicators. So I have 2021 and 22 up there, our overall population, and then our students with disabilities. We widened the gap, and again, that not been met percentage dropped by 12% for our students with disabilities. Obviously, I would love to get it down to 0, but I think we're making really good progress and on the right track. The question I did want to show, this is something that we talked about at one of our department meetings. We spend a lot of time discussing rules of rotation around the origin, and MCAS threw this question at us where they were rotating around a point that was not the origin. Some of the instruction turned out to be a little bit rules-based, and the students struggled to adapt to the higher level of the question. So we had a very positive discussion and a lot of insight from the teachers as to how we can adjust our curriculum to allow students to respond to these higher level questions as they see them, ideally, not only in MCAS, but every day in class as well. And this was one of, I believe, 2 questions that we were below the state average on. The rest we were either equal or above. iReady, it's different at the high school. We don't get the teacher reports. We don't get the groupings that are provided to the middle school. It's very general. All students are provided with the same diagnostic test. But it does serve to give us some data in a little bit more real time. Like Jill and Julie said, we get MCAS data in October, the official data. The students are long gone. We can't help a student that was sitting in our classroom in 10th grade. They're in 11th grade now, and we're finding out what they did and did not do well on, and what we can improve our instruction in. So iReady, we do 3 times a year. Last year, we instituted it in, that's actually, I will now admit I have a typo on that. That is not fall, that is winter. Because we did not start the grade 10 geometry until winter, I believe. Maybe it was fall. I'm trying to think what I did. It was winter. I kind of decided that in case there was algebra loss for some of the 9th graders or some of the 10th graders, I wanted to make sure that we caught that before they took MCAS. So we took them and had them take iReady. They thought they were done with it, but they saw it again, and I will mention what we did with some of the students to provide them support in just a moment. But just to briefly explain this, the green level is above grade level. The kind of dark green, the lighter green is on grade level, and then kind of below grade level. The darker red is 3 grades or below. And it was really positive to see obviously the entire grade kind of shift from fall to spring, but also some of these students that still ended up in the yellow and were 1 grade below level in the spring, they had been 2 or 3 grade below in the fall. So students making a 2-year leap, even though they're still behind, they've made great progress, and I think it was very important to share that with them and let them know that they were doing incredibly well, even though they might not have gotten all the way there yet. Focused on the algebra for grade 9 because to put geometry up there when they didn't see geometry, I think the geometry did dip a little bit for the 9th graders. They didn't see it at all. Grade 10, the geometry made obviously huge growth. What we did with this stuff, the 9th grade students that were identified as needing support, multiple grade levels below, were provided with, as long as it could fit the schedule, we had them meet with our intervention specialist once per cycle. And the 10th grade students that we found in the winter that had algebra gaps, they attended once every 3 weeks the Wednesday intervention sessions between 1 and 2 o'clock in about groups of 10. So there were 3 groups of about 10 students that met with our interventionist with support, and then they had some weekly kind of problem sets to work on, and we did see some success that those students had. It was I don't want to claim that this was what did it. We only had about 9 or 10 weeks to have that happen, but we've reinstituted again this year, this time from October, so we should have a lot more opportunity to have those students improve. Again, though, the issue with iReady, we get it once every 3 to 4 months, and it's just one number. We don't get a lot of data at the high school. We don't get the real drill down. So Delta Math was something that, as a department, we chose to use this year and start implementing. I have to give credit to Cheryl Lerner, one of the high school math teachers. At Ed Camp last year, in January, she gave a presentation. A lot of the math teachers attended, both at the middle and high school. There was a very positive review from many of the teachers. They said they were interested in it. I went in and observed the use of it in Cheryl's classroom and asked a lot of students, both honors all the way down to CP2, what do you think? And the student reviews were positive. So I said, you know what, if students like using this and teachers think it's going to be good, we got to at least give it a shot. So going to kind of talk through the platform and kind of how it works, show you a couple of examples and what it looks like and how it's been working in some of the classrooms. It's essentially a bank of tens of thousands of questions of all kinds of topics from grade 6 all the way up through calculus. The feedback that is, once students answer questions, the feedback is instantaneous. They know how they did unless it's set up as a quiz to block them from seeing that. And it's instantaneous for the teachers. Very detailed, based on however the teacher might want to set it up. There's differentiation opportunities. Questions can be from level 1 to level 4. You can change due dates for certain students. You can change the length for students. And again, they receive immediate and detailed feedback on how they are doing, which is different from the iReady. So I think that's been one of the things that they really enjoy. If they're taking it as a lesson as opposed to a quiz, there are video tutorials. So if they get a question wrong, they're prompted to try again, but they can click on a link and watch a video about it. And they get direct feedback on exactly that type of problem, so they can work on this at home and get their questions answered that typically, if they're working out of a textbook, they might have to wait until the next day to come ask their teacher. And again, through this year as well, I was actually in a classroom as well today, saw a student working on Delta Math and asked him, you know, what do you think? He said, I actually really enjoy it. And he's not somebody that typically loves math. So to see him engaged in activity and enjoying the learning was really good. We also had a PD for a couple hours on one of the half days done by Delta Math for all our math teachers in late September to kind of help us launch the platform. This is what something looks like for a teacher. This is actually mine. It was after I covered the chain rule in AP Calculus. I wanted to make sure that my students understood it. I said, I want you working on it for, 40 5 to an hour. And you don't have to do all of it. So there were 4 levels. Some students, I think down at the bottom, you can see the student at the bottom. It looks like they did terrible. It says 29%. But they did 2 questions on the first level, decided it was too easy for them, went to the last level and answered all 4 correctly. I'm not going to give that student a hard time. They know what they're doing. The student above them took the same approach. However, it did take that student 7 attempts. That's what that first number means, 7 attempts to get 4 correct. So I did encourage that student to try a few more. The third student got through the first 3 levels great. I encourage them to maybe take a crack at the 4th level because they did not attempt it. And what the video plays, I can see how many videos they watched. I can see how long they spent on it. It gives me any kind of data that I want to see so that I know who's actually been working at it and who kind of just clicked their way and guessed or, did you watch the videos? Sure. Okay. I know that one person watched 7 videos and some people did not watch any. And if they're getting them all correct, they don't need the videos. So I wanted to give another example. 2 of our Algebra 1 CP1 teachers worked together to do this, and this has been a goal. I encourage teachers to include this in their goals for the year and kind of keep it data-based. And so what they did is they give quarterly exams at the end of each quarter, and they met and kind of discussed based on the results from quizzes throughout the term, what were the top trouble spots. And they designed a Delta Math diagnostic about a week and a half before the quarterly exam to assess student mastery. The students took it. And then for students that struggled in certain areas, they were assigned brief problem sets in Delta Math based on those results. And then they took a second diagnostic to check for mastery. The students that still lacked mastery then received direct intervention in class, so we're differentiating in the classroom. Other students went right on to the review or worked on a challenge problem or an extension, whatever worked for each individual student. I don't have the full results of how it worked. Again, this is a very new process for all of us. We're still learning, and the teachers are very excited about it. It is in its infancy as a process, though. Just to give an idea, this is what one of the classes showed. So some students, I don't know if there's any student that got all of them correct. It's 100% complete, but every student had something that they had to work on. Some students were going to get some more review work than others. But it immediately, as soon as a student is done, the teacher can see exactly who needs what. And they're able to respond very quickly. And I think that's the big difference from last year when we designed a diagnostic. Collecting and analyzing the data was extremely arduous. And now it's done for us, and we can make instructional decisions very quickly and respond to students rapidly, which ultimately lacks. MCAS is great data, but it's too late. iReady is once every few months and is very generic. This is very specific and gives teachers exactly what they need. In conclusion, kind of where we're headed and what we're trying to do, we want to continue our vertical alignment across the grades and levels. So I'm encouraging once every 3 weeks to 3 to 4 weeks during that Wednesday intervention, we have all the Algebra 1 teachers meet across the levels. All the geometry teachers meet across the levels to give them the opportunity to make sure that we're keeping things reasonable between the different levels. Also making sure we're covering all the standards at all levels and our pacing is appropriate. And again, I definitely want to get some more opportunities with 8 and 9 together. Looking to continue to implement more critical thinking in our curriculum and instruction. And our huge focus this year is the use of data to inform our instruction and intervention proactively and in real time. And our common assessments and iReady do that reasonably well, but it's the Delta Math that seems to be doing a fantastic job, and I look forward to, again, it's a work in progress, but I really believe within the next couple of years it can be an incredible tool for us to improve curriculum, instruction, response to students in need, and get every student where they feel happy and successful and achieving at a high level. I think that's it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Delta Math sounds really interesting. Like you found something that really makes a lot of difference for you and for the teachers. That's great.
Yeah, and I think it was great that we had it provided by a teacher.
Yeah.
You know, hey, I found something that works, and I think sometimes that's better than, here's the newest thing, try this out.
Right. Great. Questions? Nancy?
No, I'm excited too about that. I think that has a lot of really good potential. Because I think that sometimes kids, if they don't get kind of quick feedback, they feel like, I get it. And they partially get what they're supposed to learn. And they don't understand the difference between on an assessment like an MCAS or a big test, that it's either right or it's wrong. And if you partially get it, you sometimes, especially in a multiple choice setting, pick the wrong one because you partially get it. So I think the feedback right away says, oh, wait a second, I need to take a little bit more time before I finish that problem or whatever. So I think that's really good. And like you said, if the teachers like it, if the students like it, that's huge. So,
Right.
A couple of random different things.
Sure.
Your department core belief that starts with every student can achieve and experience success if they are invested. Totally get the fact that the kid has to want to try. I also think that the kid needs to feel confident too.
Mhm.
Like, I wonder if you would at least consider just saying every student can achieve and experience success if they grow their confidence and are invested. Like, I just know that math is one of those things that when a kid gets to high school and they feel like, I'm just not a math person,
Absolutely.
they need somebody to say, guess what? If we go over this again, another time, maybe now's your time. So I just think confidence is a big thing.
No, I totally agree. I feel the same way about a different subject.
Well, that's just it, we all do. We all do. And a question, why is there no high school data for iReady?
That's what the platform has and does not have.
Yeah, so it's an iReady resource. It's not a Walpole thing. So
I just wanted to be
iReady
sure
does
that we
not do the
weren't,
groupings
like,
after.
being-
No, it's not
They
something
just
that
give
we are not
diagnostic benchmarks.
Okay.
paying for, that they have. I called them last year and I said, you know, and they said, it's something we're looking to expanding. So,
Gotcha, but, okay, so
It's
it's
not
not,
available.
it's not a budget thing. That was my question, okay. You mentioned something about when MCAS data comes back, they're not my students anymore because I was a 10th grade teacher and now they're in 11th grade or something
Right.
like that. But they are an 11th grade teacher's student. So do we pass that information along to say, you know, from the data we just got, I understand it's better to get it when within weeks of when the
Right.
test was taken. But are we passing along that data to say, you know, you've got 6 kids in your class that really bombed on this topic, so we have to do some,
yeah, we do look at, I mean, I personally look at the school-wide data, teacher data, all that kind of stuff. But we used a full department meeting at the high school level, and I actually mixed up the groups intentionally. I didn't want all the geometry teachers sitting together. So, you know, teachers from all the different subjects to sit down, how might we have missed this a little bit? How might we do this better? So that we are adjusting and adapting for the next year. We're not pushing it off to the side. The unfortunate piece to it is that it's just, for the student that was in 10th grade, it would have been amazing to be able to recognize that while we were teaching it to them. So we absolutely do not put it off to the side. We do take an in-depth look at it. I spend days sorting through it in Edwin. It's just amazing to have more real time.
sure. So that gets to my last question about spiraling and cumulative kinds of things. So are we doing more of that spiraling so that even though it's not a geometry class anymore, they see a couple of geometry problems in Algebra 2, for example? Or is there so much material that you just can't fit in the time to be cumulative?
The courses are very extensive in their standards at Algebra 1 and Geometry especially. And then we're trying to get some pre-calculus into the Algebra 2 curriculum. But they do see it to an extent. The trigonometry that they see has a basis in geometry in Algebra 2. And a lot of times when they do make a point in our geometry classes, when they're doing, solving for angles and sides, they're mixing algebraic equations in. So we are spiraling to the extent that we can. In geometry, it's going to be challenging to do regression analysis.
Yeah, no, I'm not looking,
Right.
I'm looking for like the stuff that if you want a kid to graduate with an understanding of math, sometimes you do need to go back over some of the things that they learned previously. Thank you. That's it.
Other questions? Sean?
Thank you for the presentation. I do a couple questions. Do you know what the current adoption of Delta Math is? Is it like unanimous, every math teacher is definitely using it, or since it's the first year, is it kind of phasing in?
Some are far more comfortable with it than others. The expectation at the high school and to an extent the middle school is that everyone is using it. Before we had the training, I asked everyone, give one to your students so we're walking in with data rather than learning how to log in. If we're going to get a professional development, we might as well get use out of it. But again, I think we need to, and again, in January, on the next Ed Camp Day, we're running another session for support and ideas to be shared so that people can get more comfortable and expand their repertoire. And the nice thing about it is if one teacher creates an assignment, other teachers are allowed to link to it, copy it, and so there's a lot of sharing going on. But again, everyone's invested in it. I think some are more comfortable with others, and that's something that I'm working with some of those teachers to help support them.
And does it have a broad range of resources in each course area?
Absolutely. Sixth grade, if there's a sixth grader that needs some content below that might not be there. But I can't find everything in AP Calculus. Other than that, most of it is there. It's very extensive.
Okay. You mentioned in the end, talking about Delta Math, that it gives the teachers data to respond right away. Is there resources in Delta Math that they can respond with, or is that pulling in different curricular elements or curricular resources?
Right. We've had teachers kind of assign their test corrections. In order for a student to do test corrections, they have to complete some problem sets. There's some stuff that automatically assigns. Somebody like Cheryl is actually beyond my ability, and I'm learning as fast as I can, but she was using it a year or two ahead of me. The teachers would have to kind of look at the data and then decide, but they can create those other assignments and then push out to certain groups of kids very easily. So the ability to differentiate. So right now, a lot of teachers are building up their bank of assignments. Some people have dozens and dozens already, and some people are kind of getting their feet wet, understandably.
Okay, that's very cool. Sorry, I just had two more back from earlier in the presentation. You mentioned that a lot of the teachers were creating curriculum. Does it mean that there's not like a general resource, or is that more just filling in gaps in what's there?
The teachers spent a lot of hours as a department. I was thrilled with the high school participation this past summer in designing and aligning curriculum. Some teachers spent more time inputting activities. Some people were doing more the pacing and aligning to standards. And a lot of great work was done. It is by no means what I would call complete, or it's always going to be a living document. We definitely have work to do, and I think they're noticing a lot more fluidity now, and things are smoothing out, and so hopefully we can continue to work at it. Obviously, it takes time. It's not something, when you have a PLC for half an hour that you can really dig in and create. So it's a work in progress, but I think we're making giant steps.
If I can elaborate, Sean,
Yeah.
I think that for years our for years, like a lot of schools, our teachers relied heavily on text and textbooks. We purchased high-quality curriculum materials. We have good textbooks. But what our teachers are doing now, and what Mr. Rodolphe was talking about over the summer, is designing UBD units to supplement and support and to utilize outside resources such as Delta Math to support their work. And that will always be ongoing. And there will always be gaps in areas we can do better in and improve on. And we make changes and move based on the department chair's direction, our MCAS scores, our common assessments. And so I think it's like more of a capture of that continual shift. And like Mr. Dovey said, even vertical alignments.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great.
Thanks.
For example, the stats group is pulling from the resource Stats Medic and putting a lot of very interesting activities into their lessons instead of just throwing formulas at students.
And last one, I think. So I think you mentioned when you were talking about the PSATs that geometry wasn't listed. I think as a focus area, I might be off on my verbiage, but can you just...
It's heart of algebra, problem solving and data analysis, and fundamentals of advanced math, I believe.
Okay.
So my guess is, the algebra is pretty self-explanatory. The data analysis and problem solving is probably the critical thinking. And then the fundamentals of advanced math might be kind of setting the students up for like that trigonometry and those, that would probably be, I would assume the students doing well on that, and I can take a deeper dive, would be the students that are probably heading towards calculus and stuff like that and might be headed towards a STEM career and have that strength in math. And it's unlikely that every student is going to excel in that area.
So with geometry as a 10th grade, I mean, they're doing geometry right before they're hitting the PSATs and, approaching the PSAT with, out the major areas of the test fresh in their mind. Is that, a problem for them?
Without the...
Well, I mean, geometry is kind of like a core 10th grade subject. They're
Right.
taking the PSATs in 11th grade. So they're entering the PSATs with their, currently in, an algebra-based class. Then 9th grade is algebra, but that, the last main chunk of learning was in geometry, which isn't a focus area that the test
Right.
covers. It seems like that could be problematic in our students' preparation.
Meaning they're having, well, geometry, I'm sure it's still on there. I don't know why it's not listed as one of the 3 areas.
Yeah, but it just seems problematic that our students may not be prepared for, advanced tests based upon the alignment of our courses.
Okay.
Can you say a little more, Sean, so I understand what you're saying? So you're concerned that because sophomores are receiving the geometry, because we're providing geometry at the sophomore year, concerned there could be an alignment issue with PSATs?
Well, yeah, so that's what it seems like. I'm not familiar enough with the PSATs to know if focus area means like the majority of the questions or if that's the data they're pulling out to give. Yeah. That's one thing, but if the majority of the questions aren't on geometry or are on algebra and the last
and
year that they've taught is...
I understand your point. Our current design is more a reflection of the standards and the state's recommendations of the implementation of the standards. And so your point is totally understandable and clear, and certainly something we can look to make sure, to Nancy's comments earlier, that we're spiraling and providing opportunities to be prepared for these assessments. But our alignment is more a reflection of the recommended standards, not so much to align with the PSATs. But it's a fair point, and I hear you.
Yeah, I was curious. I mean, I'm going to look more at the PSATs myself and, the makeup and then, leading into the SAT, but just...
Sure.
Yeah, I think the students in the Algebra 2, they'll have 2.5 months to get into it before the PSATs. I think because of the pacing and the depth, and every student takes the PSATs. So at the honors level, it's Algebra 2 pre-calc. They're moving at a faster pace to get to some other standards. So they might have seen some stuff in more depth that some of the CP2 may not have arrived at yet.
Thank you.
Sure.
Nancy?
Related to that, I've looked at the SATs and the PSATs a little bit because I do a little bit of tutoring. There's a lot of geometry on those.
Yes.
So, I'm surprised that they don't pull that out for you as far as data. The students get feedback on, you know, which sections they did poorly on. So it sounds to me like the students get more feedback than the district gets, which
Yeah.
you would think is a correctable problem, because if a district, I mean, if districts collectively asked for it, I would think that the
Right.
school, whatever that board is, should do it, because it would be helpful, but,
I spent a couple hours trying to find everything I could possibly find, and maybe I missed something. I will reach out to a couple of colleagues
yeah.
and see if maybe I missed a button somewhere.
I was gonna
Because you
say,
don't want to have to call the kids and say, can I look at your paper to see
Yeah, I
where
was
you
gonna-
went wrong?
I was gonna say, we did, I think, 4 SATs in the last 6 months. Yeah, and we got lots of information about every
Right.
question, every
Right.
topic that was,
Yeah.
that was missed, yeah.
And there is a bunch of, you know, so it's weird
Yeah.
that they're not
Mhm.
giving feedback about geometry.
Other questions or comments?
Thanks, John, for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks,
And
everybody.
I'd like to just thank all the teachers and the math coaches as well. They're
No, it's good work, you
Phenomenal.
guys, thanks.
Yeah,
Thank
excellent.
you. Thanks, John.
Yep, thanks, math department.
You can go home now.
Dismissed?
Yes, exactly. Go look at that iReady data.
Julie's gonna be exciting, but not that exciting.
Yeah, exactly. All right, next up, preschool tuition.
Sure, we have Julie Martin here that will present to the school committee for a rationale for tuition increase for the Daniel Feeney preschool. And she's here to also answer any questions you may have about that tuition increase.
Yes, that was great. They're amazing. We're lucky to have them in the district,
Yeah.
all of them. It's nice to see where our kids are going to be headed someday. So yes, thank you everybody for your time this evening. So I'm here to request a 3% increase in our tuition for the 23-24 school year. The last we discussed this was 3 years ago, when we increased our tuition 5%, 7%, and 10%. Really as a result of us coming more in line with the other districts in our surrounding communities, and I believe you have that information in front of you. This increase is to, again, to come further in line with the other surrounding communities. I used the full day program as the comp for Walpole, just because programming varies so widely in community preschools as far as half-day options, full-day options, hours, days. It really runs the gamut. So I thought using a full-day comp would be most appropriate. As you know, we have grown significantly. I think since the last I saw you, we have increased by 3 more students. We reached 100 students this week. Starting Monday, we're at 102, and the end of next week, we'll be at 105. And so the increase is really to support our growth, which you have always been supportive of, and we greatly appreciate it, and Dr. Quealy and Mr. Frisha. And this is really to continue to provide enrichment opportunities for the children at the Daniel Feeney Preschool in order to bring them enrichment and to bring speakers and artists and musicians to help support the curriculum and the preschool curriculum and the play and social emotional learning standards that are tied to our curriculum. So we feel this 3% increase is a reasonable one. It will still bring us, as I mentioned earlier, further in line with our surrounding communities. We are very fortunate in Walpole that we have many families that are interested in sending their children to our preschool, and not all communities can say the same as far as the need for peer models in their preschool programs. So we've been very fortunate in that regard. We've also have been extremely fortunate in Walpole to have the support of our community as far as giving us opportunities. We've partnered with the Walpole Recreation Department, and they've donated their time and resources, and other community members in the fire department, the police department, a lot of people that will come in and do things for the preschool at no cost. And the kids enjoy that. So This increase will help, continue to support those types of opportunities as we continue to grow, as we're seeing, more children who come in who have more moderate to high needs. So that's, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. And I just have one quick question. The bottom in the yellow, that's with the increase or what we have today?
That the 5640 that is currently what we have.
Okay.
We're adding the 3% to that. Kristen, rounded up would be 5810.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Carrie, did you have a question?
That was my question.
Okay, thank you. Bill?
Through Madam Chair, just quickly, thank you for this, appreciate it. I'm glad my math, after all that math, was correct. Quickly here, could you just reiterate for me, because it all blends together, unfortunately. 3 years ago, did we vote for an increase that was gradiated over 3 years?
Yes, it was
Okay.
incremental over 3 years. It was 5%, then 7%, and 10%.
And that's what got us to this number.
And that's what got us to this, because it was, I think, at that point, that was, I believe, my first year in the position.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there had been a tuition increase in some time. And so when we researched the area tuitions around us, we noticed that Walpole was below what other communities were offering. And that set forth that. And just as a data point there, it hasn't hampered our enrollment at all at the preschool. We have a significant wait list for peer models for the past 3 years.
No, thank you. Through you, Madam
Sure.
Chair. I think just a few quick thoughts on this. Number one, we appreciate the tremendously strong work you're doing, as evidenced by how everybody wants to get in there, as evidenced by the fact that you do that, despite the fact that it's great that some of these peer models are near us. We're the best game in town, it seems, with our neighbors, even with the proposed increase this evening. And I know it's, when you look at the other options in the community, it's not apples to apples, and our teachers are, have a higher, they're to the state's level of certification, which is a high bar on top of it being our own. The only thing, I hate to do this to you, the only thing I would ask is perhaps if we could regularize revisiting this. It just seems like it's good that we maintain the affordability of it, and I think that's important.
Yes.
But I'd much rather hear from you in a brief period in December or whenever is most practical, I think, every year to revisit this, as opposed
Sure.
to letting it go for a couple of years and then
Right.
3 is okay, but I'd rather do 2 a year in a regularized fashion, or keep examining it than doing like a 7 or 8%. I think that's, if we can kind of grow, obviously the market continues to grow for the cost of these. I think it would be good to plan. I think this is necessary tonight, and it's great that you come before us, but it might be good to think about doing this, or just at least like having this as an agenda item regularly to look at every year. Where are we with this kind of preschool fee tuition? So I'm supportive of the measure, and I think it's still a great deal and a strong program.
Carrie?
I would just point out, because people who might be listening to the conversation don't have the chart that you
Oh,
provided
yes.
to us. So, of the 8 comparable towns that you've given us, with this 3% increase, we would still be third from the bottom in terms of yearly tuition.
Yes.
And the 2 programs that are, have lower tuition also serve children for fewer hours per week. Is that
Correct.
Okay, so I feel like that's important to say.
Yes,
Yeah.
no, it's a good point. And there's been a lot of movement and discussions just in the area preschools. There's been a couple of things, Mr. Buckley, you touched upon. As a result of COVID, unfortunately, a lot of private daycares and preschools have closed. So, we are regularly getting calls for people looking for preschool for their children. So we've felt the effects of that. And other communities are constantly re-examining. I think every year, we're unique in a lot of different senses, but in the biggest sense is that we are constantly examining our programming year to year based on the needs of the children with special education needs, because that's why we are here. And so we want to make sure that we have programming that's reflective of the needs of those kids. And I think my colleagues in other communities, we have these discussions regularly of what meets the needs of those children. How many hours a day? What does that look like? What type of services do they need? So, and then there's always the community. I think, you know, there's always a community request for more hours, and so it's very much, it's a very fluid, ongoing discussion all the time. Just and again, like I said, this year, and Walpole isn't alone in this. We're just seeing a lot of high need, and every community is. Whether that's, you know, I think there's certainly some effect of COVID. These children, I was going to say these babies, but these kids that are coming in now were born in 2019, 2020, which is really incredible to think about.
Yeah.
So it's something that we're constantly examining, and Mr. Buckley, to your point, you know, Mr. Frisha and Dr. Quealy and I have regular conversations about the preschool and the financial support and the tuitions and the programming. They're happening. I think I speak with Dr. Quealy every day.
That's good.
Nancy?
I'm just glad to hear how well you're doing, and I think for a while, the preschool was almost a well-kept secret, and I think word has gotten out, so.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
that's
and that's
wonderful.
the staff. They're incredible. Like, they are. I'm so proud of. I mean, the hard work and the effort that they put in. You know, I say to them after I've given 4 tours now, and over the past 2 months, and I'll say to my staff, like, you guys do this. They visit your classrooms, and I just tell them about what you do, and oh yeah, this is what we want, and it's incredible. And we do, we have this year more than most too. We've gone to the other preschools in our community to try to offer them some feedback and support of
that's nice.
supporting students in the private preschool settings too, which is important. It's an important partnership.
Because they're wonderfully kind and caring people, but you have certified teachers.
Correct.
With that skill, so to share it
Yeah,
is
they're
really good.
yes, they're very talented and creative
Yeah.
in what they're doing. So
I would make a motion to approve the 3%.
Okay, we have a second?
Second.
A motion by Nancy, second by Mark. All those in favor? Opposed, abstained? 6-0-0.
thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You
Again,
too.
please come visit anytime. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you, you too.
Okay, the next order of business is a request to fund the HVAC study.
Sure. So the school committee is being asked tonight to fund $50,000. It's an engineering study at Walpole High School. So the purpose of this, it's a first step in the replacement of the existing HVAC equipment in the building. What an engineering study does, it provides an in-depth analysis of the existing HVAC equipment and will indicate if the current boiler or related systems are approaching the end of their useful life. So if the study finds that the equipment needs to be replaced, then the work could be done in conjunction with the addition and renovation work being explored at this time. An engineering study will not only justify the need for the equipment to be replaced, but would also enable the work to be eligible for the significant utility and federal government incentives. That's important. Mr. Frisha is available too, right down there, Mike, to answer any questions the committee may have this evening.
Should we comments first, or should we?
I mean, I have some bullets that I would just like to read,
Sure.
but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
ahead.
So I think we're facing 2 challenges, which is the preliminary review as part of the high school renovations indicate that as the superintendent said, the equipment at the high school is very old. The last time it was replaced was 20 years ago with the renovation at the high school. So we're facing the end of the useful life in a very large, costly replacement. But at the same time, the school committee also has prioritized the need to better manage excessive heat in our classrooms, especially at the high school on the 3rd floor in that building. It's just absolutely brutal in certain times of the year. So that's become a priority for the school committee. The current heating system utilizes natural gas and is, as I said, 20 years old. In an effort to transition to modern electric heat pump technologies, utility companies pay a significant portion of that money to incentivize us to move. So this is the time for us to take advantage of that with our current equipment. So the first step, as Superintendent mentioned, is doing this study and providing that information to the utilities so that they can create a calculation estimate of what they can provide to Walpole for those incentives. And that will result in obviously significant savings. And then I wanted to just mention that today we had a conversation with Bill Buckley about and I'd like to just thank him for his advocacy for this particular project through the county and through the legislators. That today we found out that we are going to be receiving $350,000 toward our first steps of replacing this HVAC equipment. So aside from utility incentives, we now have $350,000 on the table that we can get this whole project going and maybe go beyond the high school and look at some of our elementary schools that are a priority. So I just want to thank Bill for that. Amazing work. Thank you, Bill.
Excellent. Thank you. Bill?
Just a couple of clarifying things, and I think I'm in favor of allocating this $50,000. I think we've done a lot of talking as a group about not only the needs of the high school, but as we said, talking about the sort of physical plants of our buildings and the environment they're in. I think this allows us, because we're in a timeline, right? There are tremendous amounts of savings on the table, and I think we, just as we're the school committee, we want to do our homework early and get it done. So I think that $50,000 is a critical piece to that. To Mr. Frisch's point, we did get communication through our legislative delegation that the administration and finance secretariat of the Governor Baker is starting to physically send out the money that they allocated. So they called Frischer this morning looking for basically our bank account number. So that's wonderful news. So that's additional. That's additional things.
Write that down for you.
Get into the mic.
But I think it might be good because there are more pockets of federal money as distributed through the state. It might be good to perhaps invite our delegation in January to, number one, thank them for the $350,000, and number two, ask them for another $350,000 in the next round, which I think they've already articulated interest in pursuing. So it's that piece is a great partnership, but I think as we look at coming on the heels of last week's meeting with our colleagues, I think there's a great opportunity to really address a lot of this and highlight the fact that it's a very old building. We don't want the boiler going on us in a couple of years, and if we can be proactive, I think this is a great opportunity to perhaps check that box off as part of the project, or at least set ourselves up to be in a really strong position to do so.
Great, thank you. Other comments, Nancy?
I would just add that we don't own the buildings, and the fact that we've been in communication with the town administration and the select board, I just want to get going on it. So I'm thrilled to take the lead. But, I'm sure that they're going to be too, that we get this report and make a plan. And so thanks for the advocacy for Mike, Bill, everybody for making this happen.
That's great. Thank you. Other questions or comments? Nancy?
Do you want to make the motion, Bill?
Oh, sure. Make a motion to approve $50,000 to fund an engineering study of Walpole High School as the first step in the replacement of our existing HVAC equipment within that 100-and-something-year-old building.
Second.
Go ahead, you can second.
All right, we have a motion by Bill, a second by Mark. All those in favor? Opposed, abstained, 6-0-0. Thank you. And now we have a first reading of the school year calendar.
Right, so enclosed is the proposed draft for the 2023-2024 school year calendar. So it's for your review, it's a first reading. And, if you have any questions, please let us know. And we'll have the second reading in January.
In January.
In January.
Thank you. And then following that, the reading of the school committee meeting calendar.
So you have that draft as well, and it's the proposed school committee dates, so that's for your review as a first reading.
Excellent. And I think there's always holidays or other things we forget to look at, so let's make sure you
Please
look
make
at
sure
those.
you.
Well, St. Patrick's Day this year,
St.
Gary.
Patrick's
We're
Day,
all set.
Valentine's Day, I think, you know.
Patriots, Bills games.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, very important things like that. Birthdays, maybe we can try to avoid.
Yeah, it's been a couple years in a row.
Yep.
Well, not for me, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's always allowed to be somebody's birthday on a
Exactly.
meeting, on a school committee meeting.
All right, superintendent report.
Yes,
Start
just
it
a
off.
few things. Dr. Hahn and I attended the Walpole High School musical last Friday, You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. Wonderful performance. I think he and I continue to be amazed at the talent. We just want to congratulate the cast and the crew and the staff for their hard work to put on such a great show. It was really fun to watch. Also, we had some Walpole High School staff members, such as our athletic director, Ron Dowd, Courtney Nodelbart, and I believe Justinian Burke. They attended a state conference today on addressing hate in school sports. I don't know if you saw that on the news. Yeah, it was on the news yesterday and this morning. And that was held at the TD Garden, and it was hosted by the Attorney General's office. And there were a lot of presenters. So really focused on creating a positive sports environment and building a healthy team culture. And I think Walpole High School Sports just tweeted it out tonight, so we were represented, so that was really nice, and I thank them for their attendance. In terms of just a reminder for the budget update, we are in the process of preparing the budget for the 23-24 school year. Budgets discussions were focused at last week's Leadership Council meeting. We had a budget workshop with Leadership Council and School Committee as well. And beginning next week, Mr. Frisha and I begin a 2-week trek of meeting with each member of the Leadership Council to discuss their goods and service budgets as well as other needs. And the budget hearing is now scheduled for January 19th. So mark your calendars, and Mary will make sure to post that. Just a reminder, I sent another reminder this week asking families to take the Walpole Public School District-wide Family Survey, and just to check the emails because it comes from Panorama Education, not Walpole Public Schools. And the survey is scheduled to close tomorrow, but I'll probably keep it open for a few more days and I'll send another reminder. Reminder for school committee that Fales, Leach, Rogers, and Kunde Scholarship meeting is next Wednesday, the 14th, where we'll be discussing and awarding scholarships to our former Walpole High School students who are attending college. It's actually it's a fun night. And for those students who applied, they'll receive notification prior to the winter break. We're looking to get letters. Letters should go out next Friday. So we'll get those out in the mail. Reminder, tomorrow's an early release day. We have staff training. Other events this night, this month, the rest of this month, we had the JMS concert tonight. On the 13th, we have the Byrne Middle School grade 7 and 8 band and chorus concert. On the 14th, we have the BMS and JMS orchestra concert. That's at the high school, because it's combined, it'll be held at the high school. On the 15th, we have the grade 6 JMS band and chorus concert. On the 20th, we have the Bird grade 6 band and chorus concert. And on the 21st is the winter high school concert, and all those begin at 7 p.m. Winter break is coming up. Just a reminder, on the 23rd, that is a full day of school. We have winter break. There's no school on the 26th through January 2nd, and school resumes on January 3rd, 2023. Yeah, wow. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments? All right, moving on to old business, middle school building project update.
So there's not a great deal to say. The 90% estimates have come in favorably. Just a matter of making sure the bids match the estimates, right, for a lot of the work, and so the bids start to go out soon. and we'll see. That's about it.
Thank you. Questions? All right. High school project update. Dr. Goff, Sean?
Have a ton to report. It's in process.
And we're going to be meeting prior to the Fail Speech to have a small workshop, just to talk about some options and where we are and, you know, where we want to go in terms of the preliminary design process.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Great.
Very short meeting. I'm gonna pass that down too. Let me get to that.
Subcommittee updates?
We do have an upcoming subcommittee.
Yes.
According to my notes, that we have one on, I have it right here, sorry, curriculum subcommittee, subcommittee updates. We have one on the 20th.
Yep.
That'll focus on high school, and then we have another meeting on January 4th, which is
Yep.
the middle school.
Excellent.
Psyched. It's good.
It is?
Yeah.
It's rolling along.
All right.
Did we talk about maybe in the next month or not? Month and a
yeah,
half,
special ed.
special ed?
We'll do a
Yes.
set, we'll set a
Yep.
special ed one.
Flag that.
Okay, special
That came
education,
up.
sure.
Yep.
The other night.
I'll,
I feel like
Send
we
it to
haven't done
John.
anything with policy.
yeah, we
in
should
a
probably
while.
add a policy one too. Good idea.
Definitely.
Well, I'm not sure we can get it in January, but we'll try.
No, just on the radar
Soon.
screen,
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
it's been a while.
Citizens' comments?
Through you, Madam Chair, just want to note, this being the 8th day of December 2022, despite the fact that he looks like a young man of 30, this is our friend and colleague Shauna Hearn's 40th trip around the sun. So we won't sing to him, but we will encourage and thank him for his spending his 40th birthday here with us, which is
It's a
His
joy.
favorite
Concert
Favorite
and
people.
school
Part of the
committee.
commitment, yeah.
Excellent.
all right.
All right, so we'll turn it over to you, Sean, for the warrants.
Yeah. I would like to make a motion to approve the following expense warrants for the amounts listed in your packets. Those warrant numbers are 223019, 223020, 223021, and 223022.
Second.
We have a motion by Sean, second by Mark. All those in favor? Abstained, 600.
I'd also like to make a motion to approve the following payroll warrants for the amounts listed in your packet. Those are 2319 PA and 2321 PA.
Second.
Motion by Sean, second by Mark. All those in favor? Opposed, abstained, 600. Somebody like to take the donations?
Yes, I will make a motion to accept the following gifts and donations to Johnson Middle School and Old Post Road School from Bay State Textiles Recycling in the amount of $137, and to Old Post Road School a Shutterfly Commission in the amount of $2,054.
Second.
Motion by Carrie, second by Mark. All those in favor? Opposed, abstained, 600. Let the minutes.
Through you, Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the November 17th, 2022 school committee meeting minutes and the December 1st, 2022 school committee leadership council workshop meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion by Bill, second by Mark. All those in favor? Opposed, abstained, 600.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mark, second by Bill. All those in favor? 600. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Happy birthday.